Welcome into the Dad Verb podcast. Topics around parenting from the lens of a dad.
Hey, we actually had a successful intro compared to the last couple episodes here. Going to be talking about getting your kids ready for school. Now, school in the sense of kind of kindergarten or kind of that pre-K range, getting them ready for the classroom. And it's not always going to involve them having this insane intellect of knowing all of their letters and grammar and numbers. I think there's some social aspects to the preparation that we're going to dive into and want to discuss and prep you guys for. Is probably would be better for the summer when they're off and kind of starting to roll into it. But it's just something to keep on your radar. And it's also kind of like a dovetail to a conversation from last week when we were talking about private and public schools. But first, we want to thank our sponsors, Huckberry. Ben, you want to like kind of give a little shout out to our sponsors who've been a steady helper of the Dad Verb podcast as well as the Dad Verb YouTube channel.
Yeah, you guys, if you do get a chance, go to huckberry.com and check them out. They're a one-stop men's shop for everything that dads and guys need, from clothing to home goods to, pocket knives, EDC gear, whiskey stuff. I'm really excited about the Whiskey Peaks collection that they've got. If you guys are into bourbon and decanting your bourbon or presenting it nicely, they have an entire collection of glasses and decanters that have famous mountaintops in them. So you can get like Mount Washington, Mount Fuji, all kinds of stuff. So they have a lot of really good stuff in there that is great, especially now that we're coming into the holiday season. People are going to be looking for cool, unique gifts, whether, again, that's clothing or cool home goods. There's something on there that everybody is going to like. So check them out in the show notes below or head over to huckberry.com. But if you want to support the channel, support the podcast, make sure you use the links below, because that is going to help us. And we appreciate it.
There you go, guys. So let's dive in.
Do you know they have an amazing line of cologne?
I did not know that they have an amazing line of cologne, but I would give it a go.
And they have great names. Cowboy Grass. Cowboy Grass. Rosewood, Thyme, and Bergamot. Like,
you know what?
I'm gonna
snag one. I'm gonna snag one. I'll report back to you and let you know what I think of it. I'll snag one through our own link. That's a nice little hack. We'll just buy through our own link and
just buy ourselves gifts.
like this one's, I don't know what. Like, again, they're just, Christian Dior's Ode to Man. No,
hey,
I don't know. It's cologne. Like,
I'm in the market for a new scent. So I do like there's like citrus notes and like floral notes or whatever. But I do like the wood kind of cedar type deeper thing. Growing up, my main cologne was called Fahrenheit. And then there was I think Dior like Sauvage, which is kind of a similar kind of woody, deeper scent. I
think you should get the deluxe box set and report on all of the scents, and then let us know.
Huckberry, there you go. Hey, that'll be a good gift. That'll be a good gift for the holidays, right? Man.
And whatever ones you don't like, you can re-get. Like,
yeah, I'll just send it to you guys. There you go.
Right, there we go.
Let's dive in.
We need to stop shopping on our own sponsors' website.
Right.
Like, what else they got out there?
As we kind of as our kids get older, the guys who are listening to this podcast mostly have little littles, but they're coming up on this age where, similar to kind of where Ben is at, right? Where we're on the cusp of like kind of that pre-K kindergarten age, and we're wanting to set them up for success. And I think it does go beyond the traditional like ABCs, what are your numbers, all that. And we'll get into that, right? And as much as screen time is vilified, right, we did use ABC Mouse for a little bit, and I thought it was actually a great learning thing. Khan Academy has great iPad app, PBS Kids has a great iPad app, but there's a lot of great free, completely free, ad-free. There's no membership or subscription. ABC Mouse there is, but the others like Khan Academy, it's all free, like learning materials of letter tracing and all that. It's great. But I think there's some other crucial skills that we want to dive into. And I'll kick off a couple and you guys can chime in here. Maybe we can go one at a time, but obviously if potty training has been slow to kind of get going and all that, a lot of these schools are going to require that they are potty trained. So as dumb as that sounds, that actually is kind of a crucial thing that your kids do need to have on board. Now I'm sure a majority of you are like, that's cake. But some people are a little bit oblivious where like, teachers aren't going to be actively trying to change some poopies in the middle of it. Right. So that's an essential thing there. But basic self-care, right? In addition to the basic potty training, washing hands, a lot of these kind of basic self-care tasks are going to be, important, getting themselves dressed, all those kinds of things. Those are going to be really helpful in kind of this emotional maturity when they enter into this kind of school age time. Do we want to kind of go one at a time? Saunders, you kind of have a couple that are kind of brewing in your head as your kids get a little bit older and get ready for that pre-K kindergarten stage.
So I have two big ones, right? For mine, it's my kids are just getting to that preschool starting age. And so I'm looking forward to starting them on a program called Upstart, which is an online preschool, 15 minutes a day, math and reading. Right. Cool. And the goal is to develop their language skills for kindergarten. And the research shows that if they do this, they're still better than their peers at 3 years old. So that's like, okay, all the apps, there's a cool program. It's in most states. It's called Upstart. Look into it if you want to do the education side. The other piece for me is socializing my kids with their cousins, their friends, like putting them in groups of children of varying ages so that they understand how to navigate those social interactions that they are going to have immediately upon entering school, right? And making sure that we've kind of already got the basics of sharing, already got the basics of asking for things, not just telling things, right? Just those fundamental social interactions, right? You respect adults and you listen to adults, all adults, not just mom and dad and grandpa, right? So those are the ones that I think we've been kind of trying to instill in the 2-year-old and 18-month-old. I guess they're more like 30 and 20 months ish now. Right? Just getting those basic core fundamental things going, because I know that as soon as they get to preschool, if they can't share, right, I'm going to get the naughtygram. Your kid doesn't play well with others.
Right. Right.
And so I want to make sure that we're working on those at 2 years, 6 months and 1 year, 8 months. Right. Anyway, I mean, those are the ones we're focusing on. And again, we're doing things like letters, blocks, marble runs, right? Like fundamental hand and gesture movement stuff right now as well. But that, again, to me, that all falls back into the like intellectual, physical development side where you can actively do things to increase skills. Whereas you have to put them in situations to get that social side. You can't teach them the social stuff. Right. Anyway.
I was going to start talking about schedule and structure, but I'll let Ben have a go here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for us it's a little different because our kids are in daycare, and daycare is fundamentally preparing them for what they would experience in school. So our son gets a ton of social exposure with other kids. He's around our friends' kids, and then he's around other kids at school. So both of our children are really sociable. They both work on, sharing skills and all that. They're also doing workbooks to work on, numbers, letters, basic shapes, color identification, simple mathematical concepts at their age. How many of something do you have? How many color orange balls do you have on there? Do you see on the page? Circle them all. So I would say it's what I'm looking more for in him is the continued development of his kind of independence and his comfort in his own abilities. So, which feels like a very kind of nuanced thing to talk about for like a 4-year-old, right? but his ability to go and do things and not have mom and dad step in and do things for him unless necessary,
Yes.
right? And so
Yes.
teaching him what he's capable of and allowing him to experience that and to experience mistakes, because a
Yes.
lot of times those are things that kids, I think, are not getting to experience in school because the teacher's watching them or whatever, and they're like, no, you have to do it this way or this way, and we need to just sort of, for us, step back a little bit and allow him to fail at things, allow him to make mistakes, and then watch him reason through how to fix it, how to get better, how to improve, how to do better next time.
Right.
And that's been the biggest challenge so far.
On top of that, from like an educational standpoint, there's something to be said for kind of these, how we had like these KiwiCo boxes and stuff that would or these Love Every kits that would really develop like fine motor skills. So like threading like yarn through beads, kind of a thing, those activities, or like safety scissors, like cutting, those kinds of activities were actually really helpful. And I feel like we started them a little bit too late, and they weren't as, I'm not saying like they have to be like proficient at it, but I would say that they weren't as good as maybe some of their peers at that. Yeah, they eventually pick it up. They all do. But working on that at an earlier stage, kind of like different activity kits that are a little bit more hands-on, that work with like finger dexterity, were actually, I think, quite good things to be practicing at home or through different kits or activities. Another thing is just like, I kind of hinted at it earlier, but just basic structure and routine, because, in school, there is a defined routine, and this time we do this and this and that. If you're in a home where it's just kind of like willy-nilly, you can do whatever you want anytime you want and all that, and they're not as as conditioned to be in a structured environment, it kind of might struggle a little bit. But like, we wake up at this time, we eat at this time, and then we get dressed, right? And then I don't know if you are comfortable with them picking out their clothes or not, or you lay it out and they get themselves dressed. Just self-sufficiency and being able to be self-sufficient under certain time constraints is going to be really helpful. And one thing that we really struggled with in particular with Henry was food has always been just like he's picky in general, but like he's always the slowest eater. And I think especially it was like in pre-K, they had like 15 minutes to eat, or it was like a certain amount of time. And literally, if you like, Henry will just sit there and like talk and blah, 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 blah. And the food is still there and he won't have eaten. And then he'll eventually be hungry. I'm like, dude, you had to eat earlier, right? So at home, we would like set these timers to be like, okay, bud, let's try to eat your snack and your food within this certain block of time. And he like couldn't do it. Like, he was just like, bud, at school, you're going to actually have to eat, but like, you have to finish it by this time. If not, you're going to be really hungry later, and we don't want that for you. So doing that work of like, and maybe this is so niche and this is only our problem, but like teaching kids to do things in a certain block of time is going to be helpful, because they're not going to have free time to do unlimited whatever. There's going to be reading elements here and eating elements there, and then and writing there. So like structure and managing that is, and conditioning them to kind of be in that kind of environment is helpful. I mean, now if your kids went to like a daycare like Ben's, it's fine. They're probably going to be fine. But if this is like kind of their first foray into it, then it's something to be cognizant of.
I think it's really interesting that we all attack this from a different angle.
Yeah.
Right. Because like, as Andrew, you were saying, you focused on the fine-tuned motor skills too late, right? Or later than you think you should have.
Yes.
And I'm just sitting here going, wow, I didn't even think about that, because my 2-year-old is already taking thread and like sewing those little wooden outline.
That's awesome.
Right? She's just awesome. Doing it, but she's doing it because my wife likes to sew. And so my wife bought a toy that replicates sewing.
That's so cool.
That she can model the behavior, right? And so it's really interesting to me, because I forget which one Ben said, and I was like, oh, we're already doing that, right? And it was just it was, I guess what I found interesting was we each showed what our deficits were, and what we thought we weren't doing enough of, but it turned out that we were each doing, like, we had all succeeded where the other one thought they had deficits, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The expressing emotions, and I think you kind of hinted at this earlier, Saunders, is like that social element of being able to kind of control your emotions. If you can't get what you want because another kid's playing with that thing, not to lash out, that working on those social skills as early as possible is probably, I would say, even more important, and managing those relationships with other kids, other people, is probably more important than them, like, learning to read and be advanced in numbers and addition and all that. Like, that's actually, I would say, almost like secondary, which is kind of counter to what you would think school preparation is for. I think the social element and the social skills, I think that preparation is probably more important.
So we talked about it in a previous podcast because it came up on a weird social media thing where a restaurant was charging for bad behavior in kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you the number of comments I've gotten from wait staff because I have a 2-year-old and an 18-month-old that can sit and have a meal and they don't throw fits and they eat what they're provided. They're like, how did you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to create well-behaved. But I was thinking back, and like, I remember routinely using the phrase, and I still do, we don't do that at restaurants. Right? Like, it's come out of my mouth more than once. You're gonna start throwing a fit here. We don't do that at restaurants, right? And my kids don't throw fits. Like, nope, that's not a thing you're allowed to do here, right? And I guess it worked. I don't know. Maybe I'm just blessed with 2 calm little girls, but I think most of the people in my life could attest that sometimes they're not calm. But again, it's a different piece of that puzzle, right? That we each, I mean, I'm sure one of you is going to go, I can't take my kids to a restaurant. Like, it's a disaster.
Yeah, that was us for a long time, man. It was just, they can't sit still.
We can. I mean, we take our kids to restaurants all the time. I will say age has a lot to do with it. So, you hear about like 3-nagers, and 3 was surprisingly easy for us. Like, 3 was not difficult. 4,
the tornado,
is an entirely different experience. Just the when we talk about like emotional regulation and learning to regulate, this is the hardest phase we've ever been in with emotional regulation. Everything is just so
big.
Everything's at like a 10 all the time, right? Happy, sad, excited, it's all at a 10. And so it's definitely been a challenge. And that's the thing that we're working through mostly now, is getting him ready for school. It's like, okay, well, what's the logical next step? It's like, okay, we got to be able to, he has to be able to do this when we are not here. And well enough at school, he does seem to do that. And that's, I think, a big benefit of having him in daycare too, is like, we get those reports back from the teacher, so we can kind of see how he's behaving in that kind of environment, because we do have we're very fortunate. We have a lot of contact with the teachers, a lot of communication back and forth, to be able to see, like, he's getting like kindness stars at school because he's super helpful and really kind and really helping out his friends and helping out the classroom. So, like,
yeah.
And even doing other activities, like we just started him in martial arts because we want him to be confident. And one of the big things they work on in his karate class is his confidence, how he addresses people, making eye contact. So it's just a reinforcement of the stuff we're already doing.
Yes.
But it's coming from someone else, which kind of helps helps it have a little more validity in his eyes, which we're already struggling
are you
with.
hoping for a Cobra Kai or a Miyagi-Do? I mean, what's your goal here?
We're kind of in the middle right now.
Okay, you opened up something really interesting, and I'm curious your thoughts on this.
Me?
So, no, Ben. So,
who's you? Okay,
sorry. Okay, so let's say, for example, like you know how, like, when you're young and there's like a soccer team, and one kid starts to excel, right? And the coach just has this innate like need to foster that talent and build up on that one, and they're not like necessarily leaving the others behind, but there's a little bit more focus and an emphasis on the one, right? And we always kind of like felt that with with our kids, like, because Henry's like super helpful, like ever since school. Like he's gotten like the principal's award, and he's always like,
Mhm.
and it's always like it's really helped his confidence with, because he has like this ability to be able to be very helpful, and he's very self-sufficient, and there's like this trickle down effect where, because of his actions, he receives more praise and more
Right.
recognition.
More-
And like,
yeah.
and it's like this cycle that like builds upon itself because of a stronger foundation. And I'm so, say for example, like you build on like these Montessori principles of like, they're doing tasks, right? They're helping set the table. They're getting themselves, dressed. They're packing their own backpack. They're doing all that stuff. And it cascades into being just a helpful kid in the classroom. Do you think that has an effect on the teacher basically having like a favorite, and then basically, and basically like
100%.
having that one focus, having that star athlete, and then it boosts them up, and then it just kind of, I'm talking about, like,
if I've learned nothing else
right?
from social media, it's that teachers have favorite students.
They do,
and they treat them differently. Like
they do, right?
And it goes as far as to say, you as a parent affect how your kid is being treated in school, because if you're the problem parent, you're getting that association's being made.
There's some truth to that, man. There's some truth to that. So being that kind of helpful parent that has that teacher's back, that gives them the extra, like tools and pencils or whatever, just out of the goodness of their heart, that's fly in favor for the kid. There's some things.
Be helpful to the teachers.
Hey,
talk to them. Like,
don't be the Karen parent.
Yeah. Hey, hey, preparation for school goes beyond just your kids, man. There's you there too, I guess.
If you're not doing it, find some teachers on Instagram who do reels.
Sorry, guys. In the middle of our previous stream of thought there, I accidentally clicked out of our recording session. So we're going to
got the intro right. But
the
rest of it.
We're going to close things out here in a minute, but
we're professionals, we swear.
I'm just tipsy, man. I'm all...
You're not even
what's in that water bottle you've been drinking there?
I know, right? Anyway, Andrew,
you said you're getting ready for a party tomorrow. I don't even remember.
I'm sorry.
We were talking about find some teachers on Instagram and follow them, because you'll get some good insight into how teachers perceive parents, how teachers interact with their kids. They're all comedy related, but it presents you with kind of those extreme moments in the teacher's life. And so you can kind of judge like, oh, yeah, I can imagine being that parent. All right, let me take the different tact when I actually interact with these teachers, right? And from having lots of teacher friends, I can tell you they do have favorite students, and they interact with them. Like I have a friend who has her favorite students are now her adult friends. Like they have graduated high school and there are 15 years between them, but she's like, no, they're my friends now. Like I kept in touch with them. Right. And
yeah, that's cool,
anyway,
man. Well,
so
hopefully this conversation has kind of helped you guys get an idea of kind of ways and tips and tricks to help prep your kids for pre-K, kindergarten, kind of that age range as they get older. It's really cool to kind of be on this journey with you guys as our kids get older, your kids are getting older, and kind of the conversation shifts kind of out of baby and into topics like this. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Tell us what your favorite kid teaching apps are.
Oh,
right? It's not ABC Mouse.
I thought you were going to tell me. I thought you were going to say, "Tell me what your favorite kid is." I'm like, "Well,
no. Which one's your favorite?
Which one's your favorite?
No, because we all have like everybody has those apps that we love for the kids, right?
Yeah. But, here, I'll actually
list them in the comments.
Right
Throw them in there.
I made
I
made a really good video about this on YouTube a little bit ago, but I will. Oh, iPad's dead. It's so stupid.
He leaves the podcast early. He can't charge his iPad. I mean, this guy.
This the Khan Academy Kids is completely free. No
is
ads,
that the one that's like an RPG game that they run around like a? I've seen an ad for one where it's like
No, it's not an RPG. It's all just like it's a library of basically just a bunch of mini modules where they are doing learning and letters and all that. And another good one is Duolingo ABC. Duolingo is known for kind of second language learning, but Duolingo ABC is really good, especially for early learners. Letter tracing, pronouncing letters. Again, completely free resource, but high quality, good content.
Pronouncing, I like that.
Yeah.
So in private school, harking back to another, we called it pronunciation.
Pronunciation. Pronunciation. Anyway, dude, I think I pressed another button here. I was almost going to press another button here. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.